Well, thank you very much for tuning in. I don't think anybody tunes in anymore. That's sort of a throwback to the times when you had rabbit ears and you had to tune in a station. I'm really dating myself now. Yes, black and white television. It was a wondrous thing. Anyway, you're watching the rechristened Vegematic Deluxe show. My viewers actually deserve a really deluxe experience when they tune in to the Vegematic show, and I will endeavor to do that on whatever minuscule facilities exist here in order to bring you the finest crap that I can possibly produce. Did you miss me? I missed you. Trying to get out, and they pulled me back in. I kept trying to get out, and they pulled me back in. What pulled me back in? I don't know. I guess I just started feeling lonely, electronically lonely, on top of just being an isolated hermit in the middle of November, and it's snowing outside, and it's cold, and life sucks. And then I remind myself, relax, it's going to get far worse before it gets any better. Now with inflation being blamed on the workers, of course those greedy workers getting half the rate of inflation raises is going to bankrupt the economy. And they notice that they are strategically creating a recession. Many companies are laying off, layoffs. So we're going from a thing where they said, we don't have enough workers, because if we had enough workers, we could exploit them properly the way good capitalism is supposed to work. So I noticed the great orange turd has made a comeback, and I can't not turn on my damn computer and look at YouTube without seeing that ugly face over and over and over again, and it's just go away, for God's sakes. Enough is enough. I'm disgusted, okay? This is the most horrible, disgusting personality, the most horrible, disgusting human being on the face of the earth, and that's saying something, considering I know lots of horrible people, and they're usually in positions of leadership. So the world just got through the COP27 thing, right? Yeah, most of the attendees were oil company executives actually saying, don't take my gold, it's mine. Meanwhile, they're killing the earth and they don't give a shit. Just don't regulate me. That's communism. I had to take a break from the internet because it was bothering me that I just seemed to be losing myself and being sucked into these little bits and bites that just kind of grabbed little bits of me and pulled them in. I tried to get out and they pulled me back in, and I tried to get out and they pulled me back in. Thank you for pulling me back in. It's actually the comments from my friends that I'm sorry for the last video that I didn't answer any comments. I couldn't deal with it anymore. My brain just exploded, and I felt terrible, and I feel even worse now. The guilt is driving me crazy. No, it isn't. Actually, I'm looking forward to something. I don't know what.
There was a time when beaver lodges like this one, and the busy beavers that build them, had almost disappeared from Canada.
This week's Beaver Report is brought to you by the Vegematic Deluxe channel. Free, 100% free. I'm not asking for money. I'm not making any money. Nothing to do with money. That's the story of my life. Okay, so this week was a victory for the unions in Ontario, in Flatulent Fords, Ontario. These education support workers are unionized. We're getting about $39,000 a year. Canadian, which is like, I don't know, 40 bucks American or something. But they actually defied Flatulent Ford. Now, he went into this back to work legislation, and it would go against the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So he knew that if he did this, he'd be treading on somewhat dubious legal grounds. So what he did was invoke the notwithstanding clause. Yes, you Americans with your Constitution, you don't have anything like a notwithstanding clause, which means that any flatulent politician can just take away the charter rights, but it's supposed to be used very rarely in an emergency. So the education support workers were defying him. And it was a beautiful thing because the public at large really supported them. So he withdrew the controversial legislation, but still refuses to bargain in good faith with the union. But what do we expect from a guy who's now planning to pave over the green belt around Toronto? Toronto, years ago, they designated this area a green belt, and you don't develop it because it's a green belt. It's going to help. So anyway, Flatulent Ford, ever the smart businessman, is building a huge highway at taxpayers' expense to pave over the green belt. Yes, so Flatulent Ford decides to pave over the green belt around Toronto, but there's more. It seems like that was sold to developers, and they're buying it up, or they've bought it up at cheap prices, and all of a sudden the land is worth 10 times more than it was. And there's going to be some profiteering going on here, just a guess. And meanwhile, just the same old crap. And when conservatives, I don't care what country you're in, these people that decide for everybody else what's good for them, while they completely surround themselves in their own bubble of wealth and privilege, and they don't care. They never did care. It's a joke to them. You and I are a joke to them. I'm so sick of seeing Donald Trump's face on YouTube that what I'm going to do is, and I really think it's time to just stop it. Stop publicizing this maniac. Why are you helping him? Anybody, any left-wing channel that shows a picture of Donald Trump on their video, I will unsubscribe to. Now, I realize this might mean unsubscribing to half the channels, which is not really that much of a big deal because it's all the same thing over and over and over and over again, and it's boring as hell. So I don't care. So I would advise everybody, if you're sick of seeing that face, and you don't want to see that face anymore in the thumbnails on YouTube, then I would say, I'm starting a movement tonight to inform YouTube creators, large ones, I don't care how big they are, that if you have a picture of Hair Drumpf on your video, you will be unsubscribed. And I'd like to see thousands of people do this. Hundreds of thousands, 1 million people. Do you know how quick they'd get rid of that ugly face? That's what I want to see. Of course, that's not going to happen, because we'll be subjected to 2 years of Merrick Garland sitting on his hands while America falls even further and falls apart. And what are you going to do? I can't worry about it anymore. I can't save anything. I can't change the world. There is absolutely nothing I can do about anything except whine and bitch on YouTube, and I don't even know why I'm doing that. How many treasures around the world, the greatest achievements of humanity, will survive? And this brings me to talk about the destruction of famous artwork to draw attention to climate change. While I admire the nobility behind the thought, don't destroy beauty, because if you destroy beauty, you're as bad as the other side. Do not destroy works of art. I'm speaking as a longtime painter, and to see this, it hurts. It hurts because I agree with the cause. But I think that's the stupidest way to draw attention to something that I've ever seen in my life. These items of beauty bring joy to many, many people. And I realize that the earth is screwed up and that we shouldn't worry about past geniuses who blessed us with their art during their lifetime. No, we should just throw paint or spaghetti sauce or whatever it is they're throwing at these paintings nowadays. And so you're in essence destroying things. And that doesn't prove a point. I thought that if I agree with wanting to stop oil on everything, but how is destroying works of art going to get you sympathy? Might get you attention in the press for a day or two, and that's about it. And then all people will go, wow, boy, these people are crazy. It's the same thing all the time. It's when you have good social ideas and you have good movements, and it's always the crazies that seem to end up in charge of these things. And this is part of the hopelessness of the situation that the planet finds ourselves in. So you're going to fix it by destroying it? Breaks my heart. It just breaks my heart. You know, when you get to be an old man like I am, you begin to realize certain patterns in history happen every 40 or 50 years, and they keep repeating themselves, and each time they get a little worse. The monetary policies that we're looking at now around the world are really truly frightening, because they are going to force more people into poverty, more inequality, the same old, because workers need to be suppressed. And this is the clarion call that is going out among all the major banks. Raise interest rates. Well, they kept them artificially low after the last crisis. So now are we going to see a return to the recession, the worst recession since the Great Depression in the early 80s, only much worse? I would say so, because they're doing exactly the same thing they did back then. Remember, they pushed the interest rates up to around 20 to 24%, something like insane like that. People were going to the bank and handing them their keys. Nobody could afford their homes anymore. Layoffs, job losses. It was horrible. And then, of course, on top of that, the globalization myth where everything's going to be wonderful and we're all going to be one big happy capitalist family around the world. How did that work out? Oh, and now we're hitting 8 billion people. My God, 8 billion. When I was a kid, there were 3 billion people in the world, and that seemed like such a huge number. There were people warning about the population crisis, but no, what does the UN come out and say? No, this is a success. This is wonderful. Yes. Meanwhile, the resources are dwindling, and the climate keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Everybody's affected by it. Even the ones that don't want to admit that it's real. They'll have the whole block burning down and say, it's not real, the fire's not real. Just let me keep putting gas in this thing. And you get like morons, absolute idiots and imbeciles running things. People that never had a creative thought in their life, and they're controlling other people's lives. Hoarders, billionaire hoarders. Nobody should be a billionaire. It should be illegal to have $1 billion. Who needs that kind of power? And beyond it, it's just numbers. And these numbers, it's like people hoarding shit for no reason. And just, having a house full of crap. But it's all mental, and they have other people to clean up their crap, so they don't have to worry about all the crap that they're creating. I mean, they're just, the diarrhea flows out of their mouths on a daily basis. Well, thank you for checking in with the Vegematic Deluxe show. I'm sure that you found the few minutes that you spent with me incredibly enlightening and educational, and yeah, but it's good to see you. I wish I could see you. I wish I could see the way I used to. Anyway, good to see everybody. Thank you for coming by again. And I am back to answering comments. Yes, any comment that you leave will be responded to within 24 hours. Give and take an hour or two. Be well, everybody. And we'll survive somehow. Well, some of us will, some of us won't. But let's not go there. Let's just say that it's just a scary world we live in, and it's getting scarier. Peace, good night, and good luck.